There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding among the American people about what an audit is and what that word means.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So one of the things that I just absolutely cannot stand about the whole DOGE, Elon Musk thing is that people keep talking about, I see this in the comment sections of videos. Mike Johnson just recently said something about this as the Speaker of the House.
Now, I think there's a gross overreaction in the media to what is happening. The executive branch of government in our system has the right to evaluate how executive branch agencies are operating and to ensure that not only the intent of Congress in funding mechanisms, but also the stewardship of precious American taxpayer dollars is being handled well. That's what they're doing by putting a pause on some of these agencies and by evaluating them, by doing these internal audits. That is a long overdue, much welcome development. That's what the American people demand and deserve.
Elon Musk has said essentially the same thing. We're auditing the way that the spending's being done. We're going in there and we're looking at all these processes and blah, 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 blah. It's fair that people are confused and that they don't understand what an audit is and that they don't understand what the process for this audit is, because Elon Musk has not said what the process for this audit is, okay? So I'm certified to do audits under ISO, which is the International Standards Organization. And ISO is, again, international, and they set standards for a number of things, but the audits that I am certified to do are specific to environmental management systems. I'm trying to put this in the most simple terms here. You build management systems, and they are essentially lay out what you do as a company to achieve what outcomes, how you check to make sure that those things are working, what you do if you discover that something isn't working, and this is in like tons of different fields, right? So like I said, I can do environmental management systems because I'm an environmental specialist in my day job, and that we have an environmental management system, and it lays out like what are our impacts on the environment and what are the things that we do that have potential impacts on the environment, and what do we do to mitigate those impacts on the environment, and if we discover that something is failing, what is our process for fixing that, and how do we check on that later on? And all of this throughout an ISO certified management system is transparent. Okay, so when you do an audit for ISO, you don't just like go in secret and start tearing things out at the roots and at the end of it be like, here's everything that I tore up because I did an audit. No, there's a full process to it, and it starts with explaining what is going to happen in the audit. Okay, you do not just go in there in secret. Let's start with that. Okay, and then there's a schedule for what's supposed to happen with the audit. You put out a list of the people who are going to be involved in the audit and what you're going to need from those people for that audit. The whole process is transparent and it's structured, okay? And one of the big things that's really important is that when you are auditing a system, any system, or organization or individual, the person who is doing the audit is not the person who's responsible for making the changes that the audit calls for, okay? So if I were, think about it, it makes perfect sense when you think about it, right? Like, let's say just me. Let's say I had issues with my taxes, okay? And I was getting audited. Wouldn't make sense for me to be auditing myself, would it? Literally the same thing with any other institution, organization, business, whatever it is. And Elon Musk is personally involved in the organizations that he is auditing, the departments that he's auditing. He has contracts with the departments that he's auditing. But even just in the context of DOGE, he is directing those businesses in their hiring, firing, spending, personnel decisions, all these kinds of things. He's making changes and decisions while he's auditing. And that's the other thing, okay? You go and you audit and you put together a report and you say, here's the things that I found on my audit. You don't just go in there and as you're auditing, change stuff. You understand? It's systematic. And there's a reason why it's systematic. It's not just be like, this is the way that we do things. The reason why an audit is systematic is because you need to understand the full picture in order to understand whether or not the changes that you are making are causing the desired outcomes. Okay? And think about this in the terms of science, right? If you're doing a science experiment and as you're going, you just change things willy-nilly the whole way through, you can't tell if any of those individual steps that you took were the thing that affected the outcome, right? You know, if I'm trying to understand what the temperature is that water boils at, and I'm constantly cranking the fucking dial on the stove, that experiment's not going to make any sense, because who knows what the actual temperature was, right? That the water actually started boiling at, if I'm cranking it up and down and up and down, and I'm using an electric thermometer and I'm using a fucking manual thermometer, and I put the lid on and I take the lid off and I dump it out and I pour some more water in there. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's happening right now. The government's not being held to an ISO standard. I understand that. But audits all really operate under those kind of general principles. Okay, those are all what I just described. Those are all basic auditing principles. That's how you do an audit. You don't get yourself involved. You don't get your own hands dirty doing the work. You don't change things while you're auditing. That's across the board. Doesn't matter. The American people don't necessarily know that. And to be honest, you don't really need to know that. Okay? Donald Trump knows that. Okay, Donald Trump knows what an audit is. Mike Johnson knows what an audit is. Elon Musk knows what an audit is. They all know how those things are supposed to operate. And they're lying. When they say that it's an audit, they're lying. It's dishonest, because it's not a confusing process that they don't know anything about. And it's misleading people. And it's really frustrating to me. And then, yeah, you get people in these comment sections, and it's just like, well, you know, as an audit, they should be able to handle an audit. Well, sure, they should be able to handle an audit. They're not getting audited. You know, they're getting gutted. And there's a difference. At least as far as I can tell, no one's really talking about that. No one, like, they're just allowing this bullshit to keep getting, you know, spread. Like, even the media outlets that are talking about what Elon Musk is doing to the government, they're not, like, calling out that basic bullshit that this isn't an audit. Elon Musk is in there with the hood up, tearing shit out, and, you know, pulling out little factoids that are not being verified or given any proof. There's no audit report. There's no information. And then he just, you know, gets out there and just starts spouting it off to people and makes things up. He literally admitted in that fucking press conference he had from the Oval Office that the $50 million for condoms to Hamas thing wasn't true. You know, it wasn't true. And everyone knew it. We all knew it wasn't true. Sorry, not everyone. A lot of people believed it for whatever reason. But it wasn't true. And he outright admitted that. You know, like, oh, well, you know, not everything that I say is going to be accurate. It was like almost verbatim. That's still a paraphrase, but it was very close to pretty much that sentence. I don't remember right off the top of my head what exactly he said, but it was like, yeah, you know, not everything's going to be accurate. Fine. Not everything's going to be accurate. I totally respect that. That's why you don't make massive decisions until the fucking audit is done. You don't slash and burn as you're going. You do the audit, and then you present the report, and then systematic decisions are made. You know? That's the way that's supposed to go. And that Elon Musk knows that. Donald Trump knows that. These are business people. You know, all value judgments about how good of business people they are, put it aside. They are business owners. They do at least know things like this. Because I'll tell you right now, auditing, it is a fundamental business function. All right? Businesses do audits all the time. And it is not just a term you throw around and say, we're doing an audit. There's no audit report. There's no details of what is actually going to happen. There's no plan. There's no detail, none of it. And none of it has to be secret. And the amount of departments that he's gone through, you know, auditing in the last 3.5 weeks, it's so much of the federal government that you cannot possibly audit those things correctly. He's doing a bad job of auditing if he was auditing. He's not auditing. It's not an audit. It's bullshit.